Gamar Jobat from Greenway Parks. This is the Rorshok, Georgia update from the 7th of September, 2023. Very sorry for being late this week. This is a quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Start this week's episode with news about the impeachment. On Friday the 1st, Georgian Dream, or Otsneba, decided to impeach President Zourabichvili for what they say is hindering the country's EU candidate status. However, before doing so, the party will ask the Constitutional Court to confirm that the president violated the Constitution. Otsneba decided to impeach Zourabichvili after she announced visits to the European capitals to lobby for Georgia's candidate status. Zourabichvili, despite not having permission from the government to make these visits, already met with Frank-Walter Steinmeier, president of Germany, in Berlin, and Charles Michel, president of the European Council, in Brussels. European leaders, including Charles Michel, have praised Zourabichvili's personal commitment to promoting Georgia's European perspective. They have appreciated her contributions to legislative scrutiny, exercising her right to pardon individuals, which has contributed to depolarization, and her solid political focus on the EU-Georgia agenda. This contradicts Otsneba's BS narrative, which says that Zourabichvili sabotages Georgia's European path. Moreover, having the impeachment process started requires 50 votes in Parliament. However, removing the president from office through the impeachment process requires 100 votes, which Otsneba does not have, as the opposition unanimously criticized Zourabichvili's impeachment and vowed not to support the motion. Probably anybody who can understand this update already understands what crazy cinematographic stupidity this is. The same way Misha did, Bidzina is confusing himself with the state. In reality, she probably is trying to get EU officials to give candidate status to Georgia, and she is the only one who could make that possible, as unlikely as it is, especially now. On Thursday the 31st, a news website that the UN Association of Georgia runs, called civil.ge, shared that the Russian government is offering Georgian citizens free admission to Russian higher education institutions for the 2024-25 academic year. According to the Russian interest section at the Swiss embassy, a section of the embassy that given to Russia so the country can issue documents for Georgian citizens, the federal budget of the Russian Federation for Georgian citizens, stateless persons, and Russian citizens residing in Georgia has funded the program. Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chairman of the Russia Security Council and former president, attributes these changes to the, quote, pragmatic policy of the current Georgian leadership towards Moscow, meaning Otsneba's policy not to join Western sanctions against Russia and a welcoming visa-free regime with that country, and in general moving Georgia towards being a Russian colony again, as it was from Erekle Meore until independence. Now, political news. On Wednesday the 6th, Girchi-More Freedom and Droa formed an alliance for the 2024 parliamentary elections. According to Droa's press service, both parties have a clear vision of the future, meaning Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration. The statement said that they united because they wanted zero cooperation with the Russian regime, and to replace Soviet one-party system with a modern Western-type coalition government. It'll be interesting to see if they can agree on a party list. Speaking of Parliament, on Wednesday the 6th, Shalva Papuashvili, parliamentary speaker, issued stringent security regulations for Parliament, effective from Monday the 18th. These rules cover access passes, visitor behavior, consequences for rule violations, among others. Visitors must refrain from disrupting Parliament activities by hanging banners, distributing materials, or staging demonstrations within the building. The rules also prohibit visitor-journalist interactions in briefing areas without the consent of Parliament's Public Relations Department. Compliance with instructions from the Special State Protection Service and Parliamentary Supervisory Service is mandatory. The Speaker can take preventative measures and restrict visitor access for up to 1 year in case of serious violations. Speaker in the 90s, Zourabichvili personally designed the operations of Parliament, including how transparent it was for visitors and journalists compared to even the world's most democratic parliaments. Very sad to see this obvious and cowardly retreat of transparency in the Georgian parliament. More on Georgia's EU relations. On Monday, the 4th, the EU diplomatic service announced that Josep Borrell, the European High Union representative, will visit Georgia on Thursday the 7th and Friday the 8th. He'll discuss the country's progress in its European integration journey and hold talks about broader foreign policy and regional matters. Borrell will meet with Georgian President Salome Zourabichvili, Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, and Foreign Minister Ilia Darchiashvili. The EU official will also meet with representatives of all political parties that have a seat in Georgian parliament and engage in discussions with civil society representatives. Furthermore, Borrell will mark the 15th anniversary of the European Union monitoring mission presence in Georgia. The visit is especially important after Otsneba decided to impeach Zourabichvili. In late-breaking news, he said that the two-front theory, the theory that the West wants Georgia to be a second front for Russia in its invasion of Ukraine, which is complete BS. He's right, of course, that this is BS. It is a theory invented by the Kremlin and implemented by Otsneba's foreign communications advisors. Moving on to an update to the deadly landslide in Shovi. On Thursday, the 31st, Levan Sherzadishvili, the deputy mayor of Oni, said that the disaster zone in Shovi is still under intense search operations to find two missing miners. He stated that the rescue teams keep working in the disaster zone at Shovi Resort and in the beds of the Chachanka and Rioni rivers, as well as the surrounding Gumati hydropower plant. He added that the search would continue until they find them, no matter how slight the chance may be. Some regional news. On Tuesday the 5th, the Agriculture Ministry announced the launch of a high-tech greenhouse in the village of Tsilkani in central eastern Georgia's Mscheta municipality. The greenhouse, equipped with hydroponic technology, allows plants to grow in water-rich and mineral nutrients instead of soil. The Israeli government provided a whopping $95,000 in funding for the project. Otar Shamugia, the agricultural minister, Amir Ohana, Speaker of the Israeli Parliament, and Hadass Meitzad, the Israeli ambassador to Georgia, participated in the inaugural ceremony at the Scientific and Research Center of Agriculture in Tsikani's base. On Monday the 4th, Kutaisi municipality allocated apartments to 42 socially vulnerable families after refurbishing a building on Gugunava Street. The project involved renovating the building's exterior, converting interior spaces into residential apartments by removing partitions, furnishing apartments with essential household furniture, upgrading basic services such as electricity, gas, and water. The Regional Development Fund provided 840,000 lari, around $320,000 for the project. On to some cultural news. On Monday the 4th, 100 Georgian writers, publishers, and translators issued a joint statement boycotting the Ministry of Culture and the House of Writers. They refused to cooperate with the institution because of the ruling party appointed House of Writers director without a democratic process or consultation. The literary community said they refused to participate in any project the Ministry of Culture and the House of Writers will initiate, finance, or manage. The announcement said that the boycott will continue until a commission of specialists in the field chooses the head of the House of Writers. Next up, the economy. On Monday the 4th, Economy Minister Levan Davitashvili announced that the government has earmarked 85 million lari, or $32 million, to upgrade the infrastructure of Kutaisi's International Airport. The minister emphasized the substantial improvements that were necessary to unlock the airport's full potential. He also pointed out that the existing runway had numerous irreparable issues, so a new one must be put in place. Once the renovations complete, the airport will accommodate all aircraft types, including passenger and cargo planes. Davitashvili said that constructing the new 4-kilometer runway will take 18 months. Kutaisi Airport has experienced a record-high passenger flow in the past 7 months of this year, witnessing a 90% increase compared to the same period in 2019. Additionally, the number of flights has surged by 74%. Some agricultural news. On Tuesday the 5th, the Ministry of Agriculture announced that heavy rainfall, hail, and strong winds damaged 1,000 tons of grapes in the country's eastern winemaking region of Kakheti. The harvesting management company, a state-funded enterprise, accepted the damaged grapes from farmers and processed them at 5 regional locations. The hail affected an area of 350 of 3,500 hectares, causing damage to vineyards and other crops in several villages. The company began receiving the grapes the day after the adverse weather struck Kakheti, offering farmers 90 tetri or 35 cents per kilo of the produce. This year, the harvest saw the processing of 16,000 tons of grapes, including 8,000 tons of Rkatsiteli and 5,000 tons of Saparavi varieties. We'll end this week on a musical note. On Thursday the 31st, Imagine Dragons, an American Grammy Award-winning band, performed in Tbilisi for the first time, entertaining over 30,000 fans with hits from their albums. Concert was part of Starring Georgia, a series of shows initiated by Prime Minister Zourabichvili to promote the country's tourism potential. The next show in the series will feature Bruno Mars in October at Dinamo Arena. That's it for this week. Today is a perfect day to subscribe to our show. If you've done that, tell all your friends anyway. Remember, you can help us financially with the link in our show notes. Nachvamdis.